Miami Dolphins hosting the New England Patriots in a rematch of Week 2. Dolphins are favored by 9.5. Dolphins coming off their Sunday night loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, and of course the Patriots coming off their second win of the season against the Buffalo Bills. The man in Vegas, though, still thinks Miami's a much better team.
Yeah, apparently. There's a few games this week where the man in Vegas evidently is not moved by the previous week's games. You know, they're not.
That is good.
They're not changing.
That has to be tough, right? I mean, I know it's not just a man in Vegas, right? But not like the humans. Humans have to. We got emotions and all that stuff. Like, what did we just see?
Or even, I mean, the statistical models, like whatever the math is getting plugged into this. I mean, you would imagine that one giant sort of earth-shattering performance relative to the previous baseline would actually move things quite significantly. But apparently they're robust enough to not be swayed by one game.
We know from a modeling standpoint, it's not recency bias, but the most recent thing you saw should be weighed higher.
Right.
The question is always how much. And, if this was Week 2 again, and we only had one game of data, and the Patriots were 1-0, beating the Bills, and the Dolphins were 0-1, losing to the Eagles, how would that, the line would be 3, right? It would be completely different. But we have way more information here. We also have New England was at home last week. Miami was on the road, outdoors, in an almost northeast city. In Philadelphia.
The mildly offensive fall Philadelphia weather.
Yes.
Completely derailed.
We know that stuff has
the
a
Dolphins
factor.
juggernaut.
So Miami, they average like 900 points a game at home against New England. Even the best New England Patriots teams always struggled in Miami. Plus Miami, 5-0 against Bill Belichick. The Patriots can't beat the Dolphins. But we said the same thing last week. Patriots can't beat Josh Allen and the Bills unless they're 60-mile-an-hour wins. So all that to say, did the Patriots turn a corner? They played like the team we kind of thought they'd be this year, more competitive.
Yeah, I mean, like the big thing from that game, I think from a Patriots perspective, okay, they slowed down Buffalo to a pretty decent degree, but honestly, it was like Mac Jones just didn't melt down for the first time in a few weeks. Like this was the Mac Jones that we were supposed to get, right? Which is, generally reasonably good. Not amazing, but like just didn't implode. I mean,
the offensive line was back intact. It was the best pass-blocking game.
That's probably a pretty significant factor.
Yes. And now Miami's really banged up. Tyreek Hill just showed up on the injury report with a hip injury. Did he come out the other day? I mean, every time he runs, like it feels like, he runs so fast.
He keeps getting IVs during the game. So that doesn't feel like a sustainable practice to just,
But a hip injury for Tyreek Hill. So he's officially questionable. Jalen Waddle's been dealing with a back injury. It sounds like he's going to go. And then Javon Holland at safety in concussion protocol. Remember, he collided with David Long on crossing routes. They ran a mesh concept, and the two Dolphins ran into each other. Holland comes out of that with the concussion. So we have some injuries. And
he was another one, I think, that reported it. Like it didn't resurface until I think Monday was when he went into the protocol rather than, he came back into the game, right?
Yep. Now, New England's dealt with a ton of injuries throughout their season as well. They have like 10 players listed as questionable. I have no idea how to unpack that whole thing. But the other part of this was back in Week 2. Remember, in that game, Sunday Night Football, New England had that fourth down play late through to Hunter Henry tries to lateral it. I mean, New England was driving for a game-winning drive opportunity against this Dolphins team. They held them to just 24 points. Outdoors, New England. And, Christian Gonzalez, who was still playing at the time, picks off Tua, covered Tyreek Hill pretty well. Like, New England played tough in that first game against Miami.
Yeah, no, they did. I mean, it was only, a 7-point game the first time. So there's reasons to believe that this will be a closer game. You've also got the data point that if you look at Miami's offensive output, as insane as it is, it's a lot less insane versus, competent defenses this year.
Yeah.
That's a relevant factor as well. The Patriots are a pretty good defense. Buffalo was a pretty good defense before their injuries and still are pretty decent. That held them. And then Philadelphia, like the three best defenses they played have had the most success and limited them to at least human levels of production. So I think there's definitely reason to think that this will be a sub 30 point output by the Miami offense, at which point New England has a target that's at least reachable.
Yeah, especially depending on the injuries. So, I think it's going to be a good competitive game. New England's defense has generally done pretty well against Miami. They just haven't been able to really score enough against Miami's defense. Miami having Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb coming off the edge. Who knows I don't know if the Patriots' offensive line will hold up as well this week as they did last week. So I think 9.5 is just rich, though. I like the Dolphins probably to win, but 9.5 feels like a lot.
Yep, it's a lot of points.
Give me the Patriots to cover. But, yeah, it's a challenge for them winning in Miami. If New England does pull it off, though, this was supposed to – they were looking 1-8 in the mouth here. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden maybe they're kind of getting back on track as well.
I mean, this is the crazy thing about, projecting sort of forward how teams are going to do relative to their schedule, right? Is like you look at New England's schedule and you're like, oh, they need a win against the Raiders because the next two games are Buffalo and Miami, and they may end up losing to the Raiders and beating both Buffalo and Miami. You're like, none of that makes any sense.